We are recording. Okay, so if we look at problem one, now you're going to do this a lot this year, where you're going to be asked to draw an aggregate demand, aggregate supply. And you're going to say, why is Mr. Charlton making me do this? Because this is what the AP exam is. These are the final three questions types that you're going to get on the AP exam. And my goal is for you to be able to do them very easily and correctly without any stress, okay? So the first thing they're asking you to do here is they want you to draw a graph. These are older, these exams are older. This is probably back from like 2003. The newer exams actually say draw a graph, because here you sort of have to, it sort of implies, right? So using a correctly labeled aggregate demand, aggregate supply graph, show the equilibrium price level and the real GDP when the U.S. economy is in a deep recession, okay? So your graph should look like this, all right? Here's your graph, because you want to show the price level, you want to show the price level and the GDP equilibrium well below the potential. This between here and here is what we refer to as a recessionary gap. We're not operating near the potential of what we could be. It would be the same thing as if we were inside the curve for a production possibilities. If we were, to the southwest of the actual curve, right? So this is what it looks like. This is what you want to do. You want to label your price level, real GDP or real output, your quantity, your price here. This is going to be your short run aggregate supply, aggregate demand, and then your long run aggregate supply or potential GDP. Okay. Now, the next thing it's asking you is there's a debate between a tax cut, which is what this is, which is when you decrease the personal income tax, that's an income tax cut, or an increase in government spending. Which of these two fiscal policies? Now, when you're talking about taxing and spending, the government taxing and spending, you're talking about fiscal policies, which are largely determined by Congress, okay? Just so you know. So which would have a larger impact on the real GDP? Explain. Well, the increase in government spending would have a larger impact, because even though if taxpayers have more money, we can't guarantee that they would put all the money into either consumption or investment. Typically, when taxpayers get a cut or a decrease in their tax, they may spend it all. They may spend some of it, they may invest some of it, but they also may save some of it. So whatever portion of a tax cut that taxpayers save is not going to do anything to help the economy grow and move towards the potential. Okay. Does that make sense? Why you would say a government spending would be more effective in the short run? Okay. Now, the next part C, they're asking how a personal income tax cut or a decrease in personal income tax will affect consumption, real GDP and a price level, imports and exports. So what you want to show is you want to show an increase in aggregate demand, because when people have more money, we can assume that we're going to get an outward shift. And I think I have, let me just grab this guy right here. So we're going to get an outward shift in aggregate demand because of the tax cut, okay? So you can show that, right?
Did we show that on the graph that we already drew? Or should we?
I would, yes. Yeah, you can just show that shift. And,
okay.
The good news is the newer free response questions are very specific on when to draw, when to not draw. These older ones are sort of vague, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, it's fine for me. It's fine. Anyways, so what's going to happen with that? So now they're asking about. Let's see. Real now. Okay, so what you could also show what's going to happen with the actual output and price level. Well, with an increase in money in everyone's pocket, which will increase consumption, which will increase aggregate demand, you can easily see where we have a new, let's see if I got that. Well, let me just, where we will have a new market equilibrium somewhere right here, right? Which is going to mean that we have, actually, let me just do it like this. And I'm just going to sketch it, okay? So, which means we're going to have a new output right here, and you can call that, if you want to, Q2. I'm not going to put that in there, but you can call it that. So, but the point is you're going to have an increase in real GDP or real output, and you're also going to have, because of the rightward shift in the aggregate demand, you're also going to have an increase in price level, right? So the answer to this one right here, part C2, is they both are going to increase, and it would be great if you just also showed that on the graph. Okay, and you can call this a P2, Q2, you know, or you can call it a P prime, you know, however you want to do it. Okay. Sometimes in the exams they'll tell you exactly how they want you to label it, you know, P1, PM, PD, or whatever. But here, you know, they don't. Okay. So now we want to know what's going to happen with imports and exports. This is a little trickier, and we're going to learn a lot more during the year as we move forward. It's going to help you understand this more in depth. But the short answer is, because aggregate demand's going up and domestic prices are going up, which means American-made goods are going up, you're going to have more imports. So imports are going to go up. Okay? And the explanation is because people have more income, and also because price levels, because domestic price levels in America are going up. That's going to mean people are more likely to buy imports. Okay, so you're going to get imports going up, and then typically, almost always, if imports go up, exports go down. Now, exports go down. Let me make sure this is complicated, so I'm not going to confuse you with this, because we really haven't gotten there yet. But exports are going to go down, and you can explain that by just saying that when price levels go up on American-made products, right? In other words, when domestic prices go up, that means that exports, foreign countries buying from us, that becomes more expensive. because our American made goods are more expensive, so we're going to export less because exports become more expensive. Okay, that's the simple answer, and that's fine for now. Okay. And then what else do we have to answer here? This the first one's kind of long. Okay, explain the mechanism by which an increase in net investment will cause each of the following. Now, if you think about this, is very similar to the one you did for assignment 1, but obviously you're going to get aggregate demand is going to shift out, because when you increase investment, remember, investment is part of this expression. Aggregate demand and overall and GDP output are synonymous here. So when any part of this goes up, in this case, a domestic investment, aggregate demand is going to go up. So you can actually, if you want to, you can show another shift out in the aggregate demand, or just say it, just say that aggregate demand is going to increase, and the aggregate demand curve is going to shift out some more. Okay. Now, it's also asking you one more thing. I think it's asking you what effect will it have on long run aggregate supply? Well, you can show that that's going to shift to the right, because when investment goes up, that causes make sure I say this right. That's going to mean that your capital stock and your actual productive capacity is going to increase when you have an increase in investment, which means that actually changes your potential GDP. So you're going to have a shift out in your long run aggregate supply, like this. Now, is not this question doesn't ask you, but remember that that's also going to mean a shift out. I don't have one right here, but it's going to mean a shift out. I'm going to draw it really rough, okay? If I can grab a pen here, it's going to mean a shift out. Okay. Like it's going to mean this PPF also shifts out like that. But this is not asking you, but I'm just telling you, okay?
So the long run aggregate supply is increasing and shifting outwards?
Right, because when you have an increase in investment, you have an increase in capital stock. In other words, there's more factories being built, there's more of a you have an increase in the productive capacity of the economy, which is what this is, the productive capacity, the potential for what we could produce. Okay.
Is this still on the same graph as the other question?
Yeah, you could do it on the same one. Yeah, you don't have to do it. It doesn't tell you to draw another one, but you can just explain it. You don't have to. I mean, if you want to, if you're really good at these graphs, and you can draw it where you say this is from part. This shift right here is from part D. You can sort of say part D. It's up to some of you have drawn beautiful graphs. Some of you, not so much. So try to use a ruler or something and be very unique, because it's just easier to read, and it's make sure you get a points for it. Yeah, they're not really. They're the only this a question if you're doing it for real. The only time they're actually telling you to draw it is up here. The rest of the time they're just asking you to explain. So if you just want to explain it in words, that's fine. Okay. Does anybody have anything else they want to ask?
Oh yeah. Can you go over the explanation for D1 again?
D1, aggregate. Yeah, when net investment. Okay, now understand that aggregate demand is made up of consumption, government spending, net investment. Net, a domestic investment. When they say net, they mean overall it's going up, right? and net export. So if any one of these it goes up, everything else being equal, obviously if one goes up and one goes down, you don't know. But if everything stays where they are and one goes up, then this has to go up, right? Because domestic investment is a component of aggregate demand. That's the explanation.
Okay, thank you.
So if you had so that's going to shift it out. And if you think about it, guys, it makes sense. If more firms are investing to build, right, to build and to expand, well, that's going to have to increase aggregate demand, because what do you have to do to expand? You have to hire labor, you have to buy materials, you have to pay, construction workers to whatever you're doing. You're going to be demanding more goods and services, aren't you, if you invest that way, right? So you don't really even have to. I mean, just common sense, it tells you that anytime that we have an overall increase in investment, we're going to have more aggregate demand. Aggregate. I mean, we don't know exactly what's going to be demanded.
It's 8 o'clock.
What? 8 o'clock. You're right. 8 o'clock. Marianne, did you have your hand up?
Oh. On the graph,
Hello?
or we don't have to do that.
What?
Is there a way to show the imports and exports on the graph, or do we not have to do that?
There is a graph for imports and exports, but it's not on it's a different graph, and we haven't got to that yet. So you don't need to show that, okay? Mm-hmm. Just you just need to explain, because there is separate. I mean, the thing about macroeconomics, there's a lot of graphs. If you go to, let me think a second. Where is it? Let me think. Give me a second to just remember where this is. I'll just give you a real quick, right here. Okay. I don't know if I've sent you this or not, but because I don't want to confuse you. I don't want to overwhelm you, right? But there is a graph for pretty much everything, right? So
oh my God.
Where'd it go? May not even be here, but there is one. There's one. You know what? It isn't even here. You're not going to have to. If you were going to go to college and major in economics, you would get to those kind of graphs. I can show it to you, but I'm not even sure they have it here. Let's see investment. Let me go through one more time. Real interest rate, loanable funds, money market. So for these are just graphs you have to know for the AP curriculum. But guys, understand that there's a lot more than, there's a lot. You don't have to, that's not something you have to worry about. Good for you. You don't have to worry about that, okay? So, sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that. Yay. So is there anything else? Do you guys need me to go over anything more on problem one?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't really hear the explanation for 1C, like consumption, like the first one. I heard that it was an increase, but I just didn't hear the explanation.
Well, sure. Well, if everybody, so if everybody has a decrease in their taxes, we can assume that means their income actually goes up because they're paying less tax. They have more spendable income. So think about it. If everybody has more spendable income, they're going to consume more, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
It's not that hard. I mean, it seems more complex than it actually is. Okay, so the actual explanation would be consumption increases because disposable income is going to go up or increase. And the term disposable means what you can spend, right? Everybody makes, when a person makes $100,000 a year, once they pay all their taxes, they can probably spend about half of it, right? That's how it works, okay? Actually less, but once they've paid all their bills and everything. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So are we good for problem one?
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm going to stop the recording for problem.